The floor vibrated gently, like something beneath it was breathing. He felt it through his shoes, soft, rhythmic, almost human. The fluorescent lights above hummed, the refrigerators along the back wall droned steadily, and the tiny convenience store sat in its usual late-night stillness. But the floor was alive. He stood behind the counter, staring down at the tiles. They didn't move, they didn't crack, they didn't shift, but the vibration pulsed again, a slow inhale, a slow exhale. He swallowed hard. It was 2:13 a.m. The store was empty. The street outside was quiet. The only sound was the faint static from the radio near the lottery machine, playing some old song he didn't recognize. He stepped out from behind the counter and walked toward aisle 3. The vibration followed him, traveling beneath the tiles like something crawling just under the surface. He stopped. It stopped. He moved again. It moved again. He crouched down and pressed his palm to the floor. Warm. Too warm. He jerked his hand back. The tile should have been cold. Everything in the store was cold at night, but the floor felt like skin warmed by breath. He stood up quickly, scanning the aisles. The shelves were stocked neatly. The freezer doors were fogged slightly. The security mirror in the corner reflected the empty store back at him. Another vibration. This one stronger. He backed away, heart pounding. The floor pulsed again. A slow, heavy exhale that traveled from the back of the store toward the front. He grabbed his phone. No signal. He walked toward the front door. The vibration followed him, growing faint as he approached the exit. He reached for the handle. The lights flickered. He froze. The vibration surged beneath him, strong enough to rattle the candy racks. A bag of chips fell from the shelf. The refrigerators buzzed louder, their motors straining. He stepped back from the door. The vibration eased. He moved toward the counter. It followed. He moved toward the back room. It followed. He moved toward the freezer section. It followed. He stopped in the center of the store, breathing hard. The floor pulsed beneath him, slow and steady, like a heartbeat. He whispered, "What the hell?" The radio crackled. Static filled the store, sharp and sudden. The song cut out. A faint voice whispered through the static. Too soft to understand, too distorted to be human. He stepped closer to the radio. The floor pulsed harder. The voice whispered again, louder this time. "Stay!" He froze. The floor vibrated violently, shaking the shelves. A row of canned coffee toppled over, clattering across the tile. The lights flickered again, dimming until the store was bathed in a sickly yellow glow. He backed away from the radio. The vibration followed. He ran to the backroom door and yanked it open. The small storage area was dark, lit only by the emergency bulb near the ceiling. Boxes were stacked neatly. The mop bucket sat in the corner. Everything looked normal. He stepped inside. The vibration stopped. He exhaled shakily, leaning against the wall. His hands trembled. His breath came in sharp bursts. He pulled out his phone again. Still no signal. He walked deeper into the back room, toward the breaker panel. Maybe the power was causing the vibration. Maybe something mechanical was failing. Maybe the floor pulsed again. Inside the back room, he froze. The vibration was softer here, but unmistakable. Like something beneath the concrete was shifting, adjusting, preparing. He stepped backward. The vibration followed. He reached the doorway and stepped back into the store. The vibration surged, slamming upward through the tiles like a massive exhale. The shelves rattled. The freezer doors shook. The radio hissed violently. He stumbled backward, falling against the counter. The vibration stopped. The store fell silent. He stood slowly, gripping the counter for balance. His breath trembled. His legs felt weak. Then the floor inhaled. A long, deep pull of air that traveled beneath the tiles, drawing toward the center of the store. The air around him grew cold. The lights dimmed to a faint glow. He stepped away from the counter. The floor exhaled. The vibration slammed upward, knocking him off his feet. He hit the tile hard, pain shooting through his shoulder. He scrambled backward, crawling toward the exit. The floor inhaled again. The tiles beneath him warmed, pulsing with life. The vibration traveled up his arms, into his chest, into his throat. He gagged, choking on nothing. He reached the door and grabbed the handle. Locked. He hadn't locked it. He pulled harder. Locked. The floor exhaled. The vibration surged, lifting him slightly off the ground before dropping him again. The shelves shook violently. The freezer lights flickered. The radio screamed with static. He crawled toward aisle 1. The vibration followed. He crawled toward aisle 2. It followed. He crawled toward aisle 3. It followed. He reached the center of the store. The vibration stopped. The tiles beneath him grew hot, so hot he jerked his hands away. The heat spread outward, warming the entire floor. The air grew thick, humid, suffocating. He stood slowly, trembling. The floor inhaled. The tiles sank slightly beneath his feet, as if something massive beneath them was pulling the entire store downward. He stumbled backward. The floor exhaled. The tiles rose again, pushing him upward. He fell against the shelves, knocking over a row of instant noodles. The radio whispered, "Don't leave." He spun toward it. The floor inhaled again. The tiles beneath him sank deeper this time, pulling his feet downward. He tried to step back, but the floor held him, gripping him like hands beneath the tile. He screamed. The floor exhaled. The tiles rose violently, throwing him backward. He slammed into the freezer doors, cracking the glass. The lights flickered wildly. He crawled toward the counter. The floor inhaled. The tiles beneath him sank again, gripping his legs. He clawed at the floor, trying to pull himself free. The floor exhaled. The tiles rose, throwing him forward. He crashed into the lottery machine, knocking it over. The radio whispered louder, "Stay, stay, stay." He crawled toward the back room again. The floor inhaled. The tiles sank. He screamed, pulling himself forward with everything he had. His legs sank deeper, the tile gripping him like wet cement. The floor exhaled. He was thrown backward again, sliding across the tile until he hit the center of the store. The vibration stopped. The store fell silent. He lay there, trembling, staring up at the flickering lights. Then the floor inhaled one final time. The tiles beneath him opened. Not cracked, not broken. Opened, like a mouth. Warm air rushed upward, smelling faintly of earth and breath. The tiles beneath him sank, pulling him downward. He clawed at the floor, screaming. But the tile gave way beneath his hands, turning soft, pliable, alive. The floor exhaled. He sank deeper. The tiles closed around him. The store fell silent. The lights steadied. The refrigerators hummed. The radio played its static-filled song. And the floor vibrated gently, like something beneath it was breathing. A customer asked if the night shift had forgiven me yet. I blinked at him, unsure if I'd heard right. The man stood at the counter, his hands resting on a pack of cigarettes, his eyes dull and unfocused. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept in days. The fluorescent lights above hummed softly, flickering once before steadying again. "Sorry?" I asked. He smiled faintly. "You know," he said, voice low, "the night shift." I forced a laugh. "I'm the night shift." He didn't laugh back. He just stared at me for a moment, then slid the money across the counter and left without another word. The door chimed as he stepped out. The sound echoed longer than it should have. I stood there, watching the glass door close, the reflection of the aisles shimmering faintly in the fluorescent light. The hum of the refrigerators filled the silence. Somewhere in the back, the ice machine clicked and groaned. I shook my head and went back to restocking the shelves. It was 2:47 a.m., the dead hour, the time when the world outside felt paused, when the air inside the store seemed heavier, thicker. I'd worked this shift for 6 months now. I knew every sound, every flicker, every hum. But tonight, something felt off. The lights seemed dimmer, the air colder, the hum of the refrigerators deeper, almost like breathing. I tried to ignore it. 3:12, the door chimed again. A woman stepped in wearing a long coat. Her hair was damp, her eyes hidden behind the shadow of her hood. She walked straight to the back of the store, past the coolers, past the snack aisle, and stopped at the employee door, the one marked staff only. I frowned. Ma'am, that's... She turned her head slightly, just enough for me to see her smile. Don't worry, she said softly. I'm with the night shift. The words froze me. She pushed the door open and disappeared into the back room. I stared at the door for a long moment. It swung shut slowly, the hinges creaking. I waited for the sound of footsteps, for the rustle of boxes, for anything. Nothing. I walked toward the door, my shoes squeaking faintly against the tile. The air grew colder with each step. I reached the door and pushed it open. The back room was empty. The mop bucket sat in the corner. The shelves were stacked with cleaning supplies. The emergency light glowed faintly above the breaker panel. No woman, no sound, no movement. I stepped inside. The door closed behind me. The air changed thicker, heavier, almost humid. The faint smell of dust and something metallic filled my nose. I turned toward the shelves. A whisper, soft, faint, coming from the far corner. Forgiven yet? I froze. The whisper came again, clearer this time. They haven't forgiven you. I turned toward the sound. Nothing there. I stepped closer, heart pounding. The whisper faded. The air grew colder. The emergency light flickered once, then steadied. I backed away slowly, my breath visible in the air. Then the floor creaked. I looked down. A faint crack ran across the concrete, thin and jagged, stretching toward the center of the room. The crack pulsed slightly, as if something beneath it was moving. I stumbled backward, hitting the shelf behind me. A box fell, spilling cleaning rags onto the floor. The crack widened. A faint sound rose from beneath it, like breathing. I turned and ran out of the back room, slamming the door behind me. The store was silent. The lights flickered once, then steadied. The hum of the refrigerators returned. Everything looked normal. I stood there, shaking, staring at the door. Then the radio crackled. Static filled the air, sharp and loud. The music cut out. A faint voice whispered through the static. Night shift. I stepped closer to the counter, staring at the radio. The voice whispered again. We remember. The static grew louder, drowning out the words. I reached for the dial, but before I could touch it, the lights flickered again. The store went dark. I froze. The hum stopped. The air went still. The only sound was the faint ticking of the clock above the counter. Then, slowly, the lights came back on. But the store wasn't the same. The aisles were longer, the shelves taller, the air thicker. The exit sign above the door glowed faintly, but the door itself was gone. I turned around. The backroom door was open. Light spilled out, dim, yellow, flickering. And standing in the doorway were 3 figures. They wore uniforms like mine. Same logo, same name tag. But their faces were pale, their eyes hollow, their movements slow. One of them stepped forward. You're late, he said softly. I couldn't speak. Another stepped closer. We've been waiting. The third smiled. The night shift doesn't forgive. I stumbled backward, hitting the counter. The radio hissed louder, the static filling the air. The first figure tilted his head. You shouldn't have taken his place. I shook my head. I don't know what you mean. He smiled faintly. You do. The lights flickered again. The store changed. The aisles twisted, bending inward. The shelves leaned, the products sliding off. The floor pulsed beneath my feet, warm and soft, like skin. The figures stepped closer. You belong to the night shift now, one whispered. The radio screamed. The lights went out. I felt hands grab my arms, cold and strong. I tried to pull away, but they held me fast. The air grew thick, suffocating. The floor beneath me sank slightly, pulling me downward. I screamed. The hands tightened. The floor opened. Warm air rushed upward, smelling of dust and decay. The figures leaned over me, their hollow eyes glowing faintly. "Forgiven," one whispered. The floor swallowed me whole. The store fell silent. The lights steadied. The refrigerators hummed. The radio played its static-filled song. But the story didn't end there. I woke up on the floor of aisle 2. My uniform was torn. My hands were filthy. My throat burned like I'd been screaming for hours. The store looked normal again. The exit door was back. The aisles were straight. The shelves were stocked. The backroom door was closed. I stood slowly, trembling, staring at the counter. The radio was silent. The clock read 4:03 a.m. I staggered toward the front door, desperate to leave. My hand touched the handle. It didn't move. I pulled harder. Locked. I hadn't locked it. I turned around. The store lights dimmed. The refrigerators hummed deeper. The floor pulsed beneath my feet. A voice whispered from behind the counter. "Shift change." I backed away slowly. The backroom door opened on its own. The 3 figures stepped out again, calm, patient, waiting. "You left early," one said. "You didn't finish your shift," another whispered. "You still owe us." The third smiled. The floor inhaled. The tiles warmed. The air thickened. And the night shift stepped forward. I ran. I didn't make it far. The floor exhaled. The tiles opened. And the night shift finally forgave me. But the store wasn't done. I woke again, this time behind the counter, slumped in the employee chair. My name tag was gone. My uniform was different, older, faded. The logo was a version I hadn't seen before. The clock read 1:02 a.m., the beginning of the shift. The radio clicked on by itself. A calm voice, too calm, spoke through the static. "Welcome back." I stood, trembling. The store lights brightened, then dimmed, then brightened again like blinking. The refrigerators hummed in a slow, rhythmic pattern. The floor pulsed beneath me. The door chimed. A customer stepped in. He looked at me with hollow eyes and asked, "Has the night shift forgiven you yet?" I stepped back, heart pounding. The customer didn't move. He just stared, waiting. His eyes were too still, too focused, like he wasn't really looking at me but through me. "Sir," I whispered, "please leave." He smiled faintly. "You can't ask us to leave. Not anymore." The lights flickered. The aisles stretched again, bending inward like ribs closing around a heart. The floor warmed. The refrigerators hummed deeper. The customer stepped closer. "You took his place," he whispered. "You clocked in when you shouldn't have. You stayed when you shouldn't have. You saw what you shouldn't have." I backed into the counter. The radio clicked. Static poured out, rising like a scream. The customer leaned in. "The night shift remembers." The backroom door opened. The 3 figures stepped out again. But this time there were more behind them. Dozens. All wearing old uniforms. All pale. All hollow-eyed. All waiting. The floor inhaled. The tiles softened. The air thickened. The figures stepped forward in perfect unison. "You belong to us," they whispered. I ran toward the exit door. It vanished. I ran toward the back room. It stretched away. I ran toward the aisles. They closed around me. The floor exhaled. The tiles opened beneath my feet. Warm air rushed upward. Hands, cold, countless, grabbed my arms, my legs, my throat. I screamed. The night shift pulled me down. The store fell silent. The lights steadied. The refrigerators hummed. The radio played its static-filled song. And somewhere beneath the tiles, I felt myself breathing with them, waiting, listening, until the door chimed again, and a new customer stepped inside and asked, "Has the night shift forgiven you yet?"